So in this video, we're going to talk about how to write the equations of perpendicular lines. So perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect at a 90-degree angle. So if you notice in this picture, I have shown you some perpendicular lines. They will intersect at a right angle, which is a 90-degree angle, and there's a special relationship between their slopes. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So what you do is you say that perpendicular lines have slopes that are reciprocals with the opposite sign. So here in this example, I have y equals negative 4x plus 2, and I have y equals 1/4 x minus 1. Okay, so if we look at the slopes of these two lines, notice that they are the same number, but it's flipped and then made negative. So for example, if I take negative 4, I can write that as negative 4 over 1. If I flip it, then make it the reciprocal is going to be negative 1 over 4. Then if I take this reciprocal and make it negative, I'm going to have negative 1 over 4, which is positive 1 over 4. So that's how I get the slope of this perpendicular line. So let's take a closer look at negative reciprocals. So let's describe what is the slope of a line perpendicular to the line described by y equals 1/2 x plus 4. The slope of the original line is 1/2. So if we take 1/2 and we make it a reciprocal, that will become 2 over 1. Then we need to make it negative to form the slope of the perpendicular line. So negative 2 over 1 is negative 2, and that is the slope of the perpendicular line. Let's find the slope of a line perpendicular to the line described by y equals 2x minus 5. So 2x minus 5 means the line has a slope of 2. So 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So I'm going to make this a reciprocal, so that is 1 over 2. And then we're going to make it negative. So the slope of the perpendicular line is negative 1/2. Let's find the slope of a line perpendicular to the line described by y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. So negative 2/3 is the original slope. So we have negative 2/3. Let's make it a reciprocal so it becomes negative 3 over 2. Then we're going to make this negative. So the negative is going to make this a positive 3 over 2. Which is the slope of the perpendicular line. So basically what you're going to do to find a negative reciprocal is you're going to flip the original slope and make it the opposite sign. Positive slopes will become negative, and then negative slopes will become positive. So let's look at this example and identify which lines are perpendicular. So we're given equations of lines in y equals mx plus b form, and in point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what we're going to do for perpendicular is we're going to look at the slopes and make sure that they are opposite reciprocals. Okay, so they're going to have opposite signs, or you can say, negative reciprocals. So if we look at this first equation, it has a slope of negative 4. The second equation, it has a slope of 5. The third equation has a slope of 1/4, and the final equation has a slope of negative 1 over 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, if we have negative 4, what would the opposite reciprocal look like? So we have negative 4 over 1. We're going to flip it, and it's going to become negative 1 over 4, and then we make it the opposite sign, so that equals 1/4. So the perpendicular lines would be A and C. Okay. Let's look at this m equals 5. Okay, so m equals 5 means 5 over 1. So if I make it a reciprocal, it's going to be 1 over 5. And then I make it negative, so I get negative 1 over 5. So m equals 5 and negative 1 over 5 means that B and D are perpendicular. Okay, so we have A and C are perpendicular, and B and D are perpendicular. So now we're going to write the equation of a line perpendicular to a given line that passes through a given point. So just like when we worked with parallel lines, you can actually do these problems one of two ways. You can use slope-intercept form, or you can use point-slope form. Either way, we're going to start off by identifying the slope and finding the negative reciprocal. Okay, we need to do that to find the slope that is perpendicular. Then you can plug the slope and the point into either point slope form or slope intercept form to write the equation of the line. Remember, choose your favorite method to solve the problems. I'm going to show you both in some of the examples, but you can fast forward through the parts that you don't need. So this is a fully written example of using method 1 to find a perpendicular line. And then this is a fully written out example of method 2. So remember, you can come back to these when you work on your homework assignment. So let's find an equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 1/4 x plus 3 that contains the point 1, 6, and let's write the equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to solve this using method 1. So we have y equals 1/4 x plus 3. So 1/4 x plus 3 means my m equals 1/4. Well, my m of my perpendicular line, so that's how we note that. We put m and then you put a little perpendicular under it to show the perpendicular. I'm going to take that 1/4 and I'm going to flip it and I'm going to make it negative. So that means my perpendicular slope will be -4. So now I'm going to y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to plug in that 1, 6 for x and y. So I get 6 equals -4 times 1 plus b. So I have 6 equals -4 plus b. So to solve for b, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And when you add 4 to both sides, you get 6 plus 4, which is 10. And then that equals b. So I have b and I have my perpendicular m. So be very careful that you're plugging in the new slope, okay? Don't go back and plug in the 1/4 because that's the original slope. So I have my perpendicular slope and my value of b. So I can write my equation now as y equals -4x plus 10. And actually, if you want to graph these two lines, this one and this one, you will see that they intersect at a 90-degree angle. So now let's solve this problem using method 2. So if I do method 2, once again, I'm going to start off with y equals 1/4 x plus 3. My slope is equal to 1/4. So I need to find my perpendicular slope. The perpendicular slope, I'm going to take 1/4. I'm going to flip it. And I get 4 over 1, and then I make it negative. So my perpendicular slope equals -4. So I need to now write my equation. So I'm going to start off with point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we have 1, 6, which is telling us x1 and y1. So I go to my equation. I have y minus 6 equals -4 times x minus 1. So now I need to get this equation from point slope form to slope intercept form. So I'm going to start off by distributing the -4. So I have y minus 6 equals -4 times x minus -4 times 1. So we have y minus 6 equals -4x minus -4. Minus negative will turn into a plus, so we have y minus 6 equals -4x plus 4. Now to get this into slope-intercept form, remember I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to do the opposite of -6, and I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So when I do that, I get y equals -4x plus 10. And that is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So remember, once again, you get the same answer. It doesn't matter whether you use method 1 or method 2. So let's write an equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 3x minus 12 that contains the point -9, 2. And let's write the equation in slope-intercept form. So y equals 3x minus 12. So this is my value of m. So m equals 3. My perpendicular line is going to be, okay, so let's think about this. We're going to take 3, which is 3 over 1. We're going to flip it and make it negative. So my perpendicular slope is -1/3. I'm going to go now to slope-intercept form because I'm doing method 1. So I have -9, 2, which tells me an x and y value. And so I have y equals mx plus b. So I have 2 equals -1/3 times -9 plus b. So now when we simplify this, we get 2 equals -1/3 times -9. So that's a 9 over 1. So 3 and 9 will reduce, leaving me with just 3. So I have -1 times -3, which is +3, plus b. Now to solve for b, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So when I do that, I get 2 minus 3, which is -1. So I have -1 equals b. So now I have b and my perpendicular slope. So I'm going to write y equals -1/3 x plus negative 1, which is y equals negative 1/3 x minus 1, because that plus negative will combine into a subtraction sign. Now let's solve this problem using method 2. So we have y equals 3x minus 12. So m is 3. So the perpendicular line is going to have a slope of, let's see, 3 over 1. We're going to flip it, make it negative. So negative 9, 2 gives me an x1 and y1 value. So when I go to plug into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, I have y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 times x minus negative 9. So when I simplify this, I get y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 times x minus negative becomes plus, so I have x plus 9. So now I need to distribute this negative 1/3. So I get y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 times x plus negative 1/3 times 9. So now I'm going to continue this problem. I have y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 x plus, okay, negative 1/3 times 9, that's 9 over 1. So this 3 and 9 will reduce, leaving me with just 3. So that's going to be plus negative 3. So I have y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 x plus negative becomes minus 3. Now I'm going to add 2 to both sides to get y by itself. So I have y equals negative 1/3 x minus 3 plus 2 will be minus 1. And that is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So notice that it doesn't matter how you solve this problem, you still get the same answer. So now let's write in slope-intercept form the equation of a line perpendicular to 2x plus y equals 9 that contains the point 2, 10. So normally we can look at this equation and figure out the value of the slope. But this is not in slope-intercept form, right? In slope-intercept form, if it's in y equals mx plus b form, we can look at the equation and figure out the slope. Well, so this equation, we need to rearrange it so that we can figure out the value of the slope. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. So when you subtract 2x from both sides, on the left side, we're left with y, and then we have negative 2x plus 9. So negative 2 is the value of the slope, so we have m equals negative 2, which is negative 2 over 1. So now let's figure out the slope of a perpendicular line. So we're going to take that negative 2 over 1 and we're going to flip it, so it's negative 1 over 2, and then we're going to make it negative. So negative 1 over 2 is 1 over 2. So we're going to use this slope and now this point 2, 10, which is xy, to write the equation of the line. So I'm going to do this in slope-intercept form because that's how I prefer to do these problems. So we have 10 equals 1/2 times 2 plus b. So we have 10 equals 1/2 times 2. So 1/2 times 2 is 1. So we have 10 equals 1 plus b. So to solve for b, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, and we get 9 equals b. So we have a value of b and a value of m. So let's plug into y equals mx plus b to write the equation of our line. So we have y equals 1/2 x plus 9, and that is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to 2x plus y equals 9 that passes through the point 2, 10. So another aspect of this lesson is vertical and horizontal lines. Remember, vertical lines have an undefined slope and horizontal lines have a slope of 0. So perpendicular lines. So think about it. A horizontal and vertical line are always perpendicular to each other. So here's a thinking question. How are the slopes of horizontal and vertical lines negative reciprocals? Well, let's think about it. A horizontal line, okay, remember from our mnemonic, hoi, vox. Remember that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. So the horizontal slope is 0. So I hope that you all agree with me that 0, I can write as 0 over 1. Well, let's make this a negative reciprocal. Well, if I flip it, it's going to be 1 over 0. And then I can make it negative. Well, we can't divide numbers by 0, right? So that is why this would be undefined. Remember that an undefined slope means that we have a vertical line. So that is why a vertical line is perpendicular to a horizontal line, okay? And similarly, horizontal is always perpendicular to vertical. So that's because if you think about the slopes, they're actually negative reciprocals. So let's write the equation of a line perpendicular to the y-axis that passes through the point -1, 2. So let's think about what's going on here. So I'm going to draw in the axes. So we have x and y. So here is the y-axis. Okay, so this is the y-axis. So the y-axis is actually a vertical line, right? So it's a vertical line. That means it's going to have undefined slope, and it is going to be an x equals equation. Well, what is x equals on the y-axis? Well, if we think about like this point, this would be the point 0, 1. This point right here would be the point 0, 2. So x equals 0 is actually the y-axis. So if we want a line that's perpendicular, okay, so remember if it's vertical is going to be perpendicular to horizontal. So that means that the perpendicular line is going to be horizontal. And so from our mnemonic HOI, we know that horizontal is going to be a y equals equation. We want a y equals something equation that passes through the point -1, 2. Well, -1, 2 gives us an x and a y value. So if it's a y equals equation, that means it's going to be y equals 2. So y equals 2 is going to be the perpendicular line to the y-axis that passes through the point -1, 2. So in summary, remember to write the equation of a line perpendicular to a given line. You're going to start off by identifying the slope of the given line. Then you're going to figure out the slope of the perpendicular line, which is going to be the negative reciprocal. Then you're going to use this new slope in the given point to write the equation using either point slope form or slope intercept form.